That's John Fospender. This is the second Family Book Creator class/workshop we're doing. We got Rebecca Shamblin here, and she's going to be covering how she did her book with Family Book Creator and Word. So why don't you take it, Rebecca?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm going to talk through some top-level important things that I took away from it, but please feel free to ask questions, type them into the chat window, and John will let me know if I miss them. But I want it to be really interactive, so feel free. I've been doing genealogy for about 19 years, very on and off, especially once I started having kids. But over the last 3 or 4 years, I picked it up again. And then during the pandemic, I was going crazy and I needed something. So I was home here with my kids and I was diving deep into genealogy once again. So in some ways, my book took me about 19 years to write, but in other ways, it took about 5 or 6 months to write once I finally sat down. And here it is, probably seen it in the group a bit. So I used Family Book Creator to produce the book and to create the structure of it. So it's got the family trees that were made by FBC. And it also has pages like this, where you've got the basic data, the birth, marriage, and death for the different people. But the big takeaway is that everything else in this book is sort of custom made, and I created it in Word. So I have these biographical chapters that I've added in between those things that I was just showing you. So these pages are made in Microsoft Word. They are individual files that I have attached to the relevant people in my tree. So I'm going to share my screen now, hopefully. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this is one of the men who is in my book, and you can see I've got various photos and images attached to him in Family Tree Maker. And down here at the bottom is my Word document. It's attached in there just like any other image, but it's a full Word document. So it's going to have all of its regular Word features, and we're going to make use of that because FBC does some really cool stuff with it. But that's the biggest thing to note in this, is that my book has used that feature of importing Word documents directly into the media section of Family Tree Maker along with pictures. And FBC is able to incorporate those into my documents in between everything else. So that let me do a lot of custom work while still making use of all the really neat built-in features of FBC. So if you, and just to illustrate that some more, because this was confusing last time, this folder right here is my media folder from my family tree. It's got the usual sort of passenger lists and census data. And then here is a section that is just all my Word documents here, notes, notes, notes. They're in this folder just like everything else. And that's where I was opening them to edit them as I was working. So Microsoft Word was a really big part of creating this book for me. Okay.
Can I just interrupt you there for a minute? Because since your presentation on the 7th, I've been playing around with this, and I know you said start with clean data. Yes. I've got so many names in my tree, and I know I'm not going to use all of them. So I used Family Tree Maker to create a GEDCOM, and it stripped out all the pictures, but it didn't strip out all the, I don't know what you call them, but there's some other notes. So anyway, I got rid of that because I didn't think that was going to work for me. But what I'd like to know is, you showed the pictures on the bottom, and did you bring those into Word? What? No?
Oh, yes, I brought them into Word. Sorry, I was answering the question I thought you were going to ask. Yes, those pictures are here because they're on my tree in Family Tree Maker, because I wanted to share them with people in Ancestry, but they were not part of creating this book, not directly. I didn't have Family Book Creator bring in any of those pictures other than people's portraits that come in.
Okay,
so
when I was, is there a way to suppress not bringing those pictures in then?
Yes, so that's part
Okay.
of the settings of Family Book Creator. I can, when I get to that section,
Okay.
I'll make sure to call that out.
All right.
But you can filter by category. It's really helpful.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right, so as Susan was saying, good data is really the best gift you can give yourself if you're going to write a book like this. I ended up starting my tree entirely over from scratch, which is a really extreme way of going about things, but it was a great opportunity for me to sit down and really look at my data and make sure everything had a citation and a strong reason to use it. So that's when I switched to using Family Tree Maker, and I made sure that all of my names were, you know, consistently using capital letters. I resolved all of my place names. So if you look over here in my places section, they're going to be all rolled up here in a minute. You can see they're all rolled up by country. So that lets me be really specific. And when I write my book, which is mostly set in Luxembourg and Wisconsin, because I have made sure my data is really strong and clean, everything gets grouped properly by Family Book Creator in the index of places, and it's really helpful. Another thing about place names, I did this mostly for Luxembourg, but same concept for everywhere, is I used the short place name to actually put in a longer place name. I found there are a lot of relatives who don't really understand the geographical structure of Luxembourg. So if there was a place like Bertrange, which is in the Luxembourg commune in the Luxembourg canton in this country of Luxembourg, and it was just very confusing for people to see the same word 3 times in a row. So I used this field to actually lengthen it and add words like county and district and state and things like that. So an FBC was able to put that right into my book, so that was really helpful too. That's all. So that's basically all. Oh, and color coding. I did use color coding in my book, specifically because I knew there was a lot of people who were only related to a couple of branches, and I wanted them to be able to quickly see if something in the book was applicable to them or not. So this is a built-in color coding feature of Family Tree Maker, and I just set one color for each of my named person's ancestors. This guy, by the way, this is my great-grandfather, Lawrence Watry. I wrote this book for my grandmother. She was the main audience. And so this is a book about her father and his ancestors. It was originally going to be her parents and their ancestors, but I got really overwhelmed. And I decided to focus, so to speak, focus on 140 pages just on this guy. But that's all the work I really did in Family Tree Maker. Everything else was in Family Book Creator or in Word usually. So after I had all my data set in Family Tree Maker and I felt really good about the sources, then I was stepping out to Word and I was writing, here, let me move this. I was writing these biographies in Word, and each couple had their own biography. And so you can see this one is only about this couple, John Watry and Barbara Streff. And it's going to be, I don't know, however many pages long that is, but it's not everything. It's just this one couple. There are 9 pages of stuff. This is where I included all those images that Susan was asking about in Family Tree Maker. I wanted, kind of a control freak, I wanted control over how they appeared in my book. I wanted to decide when they appeared and how big they were and the styling. And so that's why I went this route of having an entire Word document. If you just want to write biographies, you can do that in the notes feature of Family Tree Maker and save yourself a lot of trouble. But I really wanted my book to feel more like a book. My original plan was to just use FBC out of the box as intended. And I realized my grandmother's probably not as interested in all of these dates and facts and names and stuff the way that I am. I wanted to have something that has more context for her. I wanted to explain, you know, a lot of my family don't know much about the history of Luxembourg or, you know, how it was split over time and things like that. So I wanted to be able to include that information in this book as well as information about the town where they all lived. So genealogically speaking, I'm very lucky. I have one county basically of Wisconsin where everybody came mid-19th century from a couple of countries. So I was really set up nicely to write a book like this. So yeah, context is really the main goal I had with these Word documents. For settings, I've uploaded a sample file like this to the group. If anybody would like to use it, you're welcome to. I use, let's see, Baskerville Old Face for my titles and Gaudi Old Style for my main text. I just wanted something a little out of the ordinary. I wanted it to look a little bit more old-fashioned. You'll see later, I also added a backdrop, a background to the pages in my book. Oh yeah, landscape versus portrait was a huge thing for me. I wrote this entire book in portrait mode, so that means vertical, where the book would be more like this. And after I did all 140 pages, I came to the conclusion that I actually wanted it to be landscape, which is sideways like this. It was a lot of work redoing all of my layouts, and it was absolutely worth it for me. It was the right decision for this book. I had a lot of images that were very wide, like a census record, and I just couldn't get them as big as I wanted to using a portrait mode. But more importantly, I wanted my images and my documents to flow organically in the book. I wanted the text next to the pictures. I wanted it to have a lot of visual variety. And I couldn't do that as much as I wanted to in portrait. I felt I had a lot of picture, text, and it just felt very blocky to me. I'm a photographer, that's my studio behind me. And so visual, the beauty matters to me. And I decided it was worth sitting down and redoing this. So I encourage you to consider this before you write your book and save yourself some heartbreak and hassle. So when you're in Word, margins are a really big deal. The best tip I can give you is to turn off mirror margins everywhere. Turn them off in Family Book Creator, turn them off in these chapters, turn them off in Word until the very, very end. It's like the last thing I did before I got printing, because when I had them turned on, it should have worked, but it wasn't. I don't know why it was causing all that trouble, but it really did. So definitely consider turning those off. Pictures were a really big, oh, was that a question? No.
Yeah, Rebecca, Marty just had a question on that.
Sure.
About, you said not using mirror margins until it's ready for publishing. You said, does it matter what margins you use while creating the biographies before putting them into Family Book Creator?
Well, gosh, I can't say for certain, because once I nailed down what I wanted to do, I just kept using that same document and saving as with a new name. Do you know, John, offhand? I think it doesn't matter, but I don't know. That's why I uploaded the file in the group. So if you want to use my margins, you can. Sorry, I can't answer that better.
Yeah, because I'd say they shouldn't be larger than what the margins are for Family Book Creator, because when Family Book Creator pulls them in, it's going to strip out the margins anyway.
Yeah, but you want, okay. When you're doing your layout in these, you want to know where everything's going to land, because especially when you're working with images in Word, it's really easy for one little change to like make everything else after that get really disorganized and not where you put it. So, you know, I'm going to revise my answer and say, yes, it does matter. Make sure you have the same margins so that that doesn't happen to you. So when you're adding pictures in Word, I was sort of learning as I went on this project, but some things to note here. When you click on a picture, you're going to see a blue anchor image right here in the corner there. Let me make this bigger. So every time I click on a picture, a blue anchor is appearing, and it's next to the paragraph of text that picture is attached to. So this picture is attached to this paragraph here. If I were to start adding more spaces and that text got bumped to the next page, it took that picture with it, because that's where the anchor is. And that can happen accidentally a lot. Sometimes I don't know why it happens. I just Control Z and undo everything, but keep track of where that anchor is. So if that had happened, but I wanted this picture to stay on this page, not next to that paragraph, I could drag this anchor to a different paragraph. And then hopefully, even though that text moved, this picture stayed, because this is the text it's belonging to. So basically every image has a buddy. Keep track of the buddies. Text wrapping. I like to use type text wrapping here. I guess I didn't there. That's interesting. Usually this one in the middle like that. You can experiment with different techniques, but that's usually what I do. What else for images? Oh, rounded corners. I really like the look of rounded corners. It's just something I want to do for the book. Unfortunately, Word does not have a great way to just say round every corner in this book. I actually ended up writing a macro in Word to do that, which is a very extreme solution. But yeah, there you go. So if you're really interested, reach out and I can try to send you that macro. But it's basically using Visual Basic programming language, which works with Microsoft Office.
Did you create those in a table?
Create the images?
No, the image plus the text. Is that in a table?
Nope, there's no table on this page.
Because there you can see sort of a spacing between the
Like
text.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all manual, unfortunately. That's me lining things up because I wanted it to be different on every page. So basically I would drag an image into the Word document and start typing and sort of play around with it, make it bigger and smaller, things like that until it looked the way I wanted it to look.
Oh, so that indicates a new page then.
Oh, this right here, this line. These are, yeah, that's just Word showing me the different pages of my book. So if I zoom out like this, it'll turn into something like that. So yeah, no tables here. This is just Word. Each of these is one page.
Carol and Marty asked questions and they're kind of related. How did you get the Word doc to pick up the figure numbers and descriptions?
So figure numbers are automatic in Word, which is really nice. I think I just insert my caption and I think it's automatically there, but let's play around with it and make sure I'm not telling you something wrong. That's a PDF. Here, we'll play Pierre strip. So if I stick this in here, and oh, where did it show up? Over here, I think. No, it's not. Let me start a new document. So when I click on this picture, let me zoom in more. And then I want to insert caption. As you'll see here, it already came up with figure 1. And so I can just write, 1890 census, blah, blah, blah. And then when I do this again and I add a different picture and I try to add a caption, it's going to realize that and it already puts figure 2 in there for me. So Word is really cool that way. And even cooler, when FBC runs and incorporates all these documents into the final one, they will renumber themselves automatically. So you don't have to worry about that. Very cool. All right, was there a second question on that?
No, because there is one is there a trick to the figure notes linked to the pictures? But I think that was basically the same question.
Okay.
So.
Yep. All right, cool. Moving on then. Oh, in Word. So the last thing I want to call out, because I get this question a lot, is how I got sort of this heading in my final document. So I have it, the name of the people, and I have the word summary, I think. Yeah, summary. That is a trick. I wanted to add that header from FBC, but there isn't currently a way to do that. So what I did was attach it. I stuck it in the very end of each of these individual Word documents. I ended them all with this so that when FBC ran and added all the data, it would be right under that header and it would seem seamless. You can also see I've got footnotes here, actually endnotes, in my individual document here. So I was trying to cite the information I had and where it came from. So right now they're on this page because this is the last page of this Word document. But when I run FBC and I get my final document, which is here, let's show an example there. So basically I'll just run to the end then. they are all here collected for me and renumbered automatically. And they're incorporated with all of the endnotes that FBC was creating based on my data. So this is, again, a really cool feature. And the reason it works is because that Word document keeps all of its Word document characteristics like automatic figure numbering and notes and footnotes and things, so that when FBC runs, it all smushes together magically, however Stefan did that. I think that's all I had for Word. All right, so after I wrote all these biographies, I went to Family Tree Maker and I attached them to the people that they were about. I made them private just because I didn't want them to upload to my ancestry tree, but that's your call. And then when I was ready to run, I'm not going to go through all of my settings. I did upload the document with my settings to the group. If you want to try them, go for it.
Rebecca?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Please, yeah.
So when I've been playing with Family Book Creator and Family Tree Maker, I end up with 3 Word documents that I then combine in Word.
Okay.
But it sounds like you're creating the sections in Word and putting them in FBC, and that's where your final product is coming out.
Yeah, if I were to hit create document right now, I would get 1 Word document, and it would look like this one here. This is my final 140-page thing. So you're getting 3 different documents when you run it. That might be.
But then I combine them and
yeah.
I update all the fields in Word, so I do get my contents and my footnotes and things in the right places. But I've got a Word document which is, let's say, our kids. One is my family and one is my wife's family.
Oh. Is that? But that's intentional. You're creating that and then you're putting them all together at the end.
It's intentional because I didn't know anything else to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either. This is a very simple use case. It's just the ancestors of one person. But John or Stefan might be able to speak better to having a combination type book.
Yeah, you're doing like a hybrid book. And I did a video on doing that where it's like you're doing the ancestors and descendants of a person.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's
it's like 3 books put into one.
correct.
So
Yeah.
Rebecca is showing us how to make one of the books.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
your process that I'm using is how to combine those books. Okay, thank you.
So once you've got Family Book Creator running, there's just a raft of settings and options to play with. But the things to call out for me, when you're testing, by the way, test with just like 0 or 1 generation in there, so that it doesn't take forever to run and you can get a handle on your settings before you are really ready to do the real thing. So I did so many test runs. For items to include, because of the way I'm going about this, because I wrote those biographies in Word, I had all my pictures in there. I had all the census resident data and occupations. I didn't want that in the section that FBC automatically generates. So when I went to the primary person, I unchecked everything except birth, death, I think marriage here, and name. Everything else I unchecked because I wanted to be in control of where that information appeared in the document. So that was something to note. For photo album, I make sure you do avoid duplicates because otherwise you're going to get 2 of those Word documents for each couple. You only need it to see it once. What else did I note? You can, here's somebody had asked earlier about not including the other images that are in Family Tree Maker. And here's where I did that. I basically, what did I do? Did I do an include filter? I might have. To be honest, I'm not super clear on include versus exclude here, but I definitely had a do not print category that I used within Family Tree Maker. And these right here are the official FBC categories that you should use if you're doing this. So you can get this list from John, or there's files in the groups, but these exact labels are what's helpful to tell Family Book Creator where you want everything to appear in the document. So I'll go back to Family Tree Maker after this and show some of the categories for my examples.
Yeah, I can just spout out on the include and exclude.
Sure.
Include is always included after the exclude is okay. It says, because it goes by in the photo album right up above, it says, you know, what images you want to include, you know, like the image, link to partners, citation media, links to facts, blah, blah, blah. Like the exclude, like I've got do not print exclude factors. But now if there's, say, like you normally don't say want all your census images to print. So say, okay, exclude the census images, but maybe there's one or two census images you do want. So you can still leave them labeled in the, say, category census, but you could give it another name, assign it to another category like okay to print or something. And then that will override the exclude for those pictures.
Good to know. I'm learning too.
So
That's here on options. I made sure to say use user-defined short place names. That's the thing I mentioned earlier about adding the word county and district and things like that to my geography. That's where this is going to come in. Let's see. I think for all of this stuff, it's just sort of, it was very easy to edit, just like I did in Word. And you can control whether they're there or not. So like I didn't have a colophone, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I had these other elements here. And like the introduction, I used a lot of what FBC automatically has in there about how to read the data, but I also added a little bit myself to the beginning to sort of explain more about what was happening. And then, okay, indexes, okay. I wanted to reverse sort order of segments, and what that did was group together my locations in a really nice way. So let me get that to focus on it. So basically, like all of the Luxembourg locations are grouped together, and then within Luxembourg, all of the ones in each district were grouped together and things like that. So that's how reverse sort order is really helpful. Anything else? For preferences, I like source citations as endnotes. So instead of a footnote where you see it on the page that it was mentioned, all of those sources are at the very end of the book. I wanted to include them for people like us, for people who really care or who want to find out more or to verify information. But I knew my grandmother would never care, and there's a lot of people reading this book who won't care. So that was my best solution to that situation. And format, I didn't change much in here. I didn't change much in there. Fonts and styles, I made sure this matched whatever I picked in my Word document. So you can see these are Gaudi old style, and that's Baskerville old face to make, like I wanted to use the same fonts and sizes. And I had to play around with this a little bit to make sure I had it, especially the citations and footnotes and things, just to make sure everything matches. This was important. So on the text and page layout screen, family sections start on new pages. That was really important in terms of me knowing how things were going to lay out when I was doing the biographies in Word. So I wanted them to start on a new page. And I had to do user-defined paper because I was doing landscape instead of portrait. Those are the main things I did here. There's just so much you can do. Is that a question?
Levi asked, what actions were required after you generated the final report? And it said, I assume the parchment background was a later add.
Yes, the parchment background was later. I will come back and talk about that. I tried to minimize whatever I did because I wanted this to be repeatable. So, and whenever it was possible to make an edit to a component instead of the final, that's what I did, because I didn't know if someday I want to do a book just on one of these earlier generations or something like that, and I didn't want to have to repeat my work. So the whole point of me using FBC instead of doing this manually in Word was that it would be repeatable. So, but I was going to show something. Oh, the media categories. Let me just show that real quick before we leave Family Tree Maker. That's my other good advice. When you're making good data, come up with a naming structure for your media and try to just stick with that all the time as much as you can. For me, I ended up starting with the year and then the last name, but a lot of people like to do last name first. Just whatever you do, just stick with that. You will be happy later. All right, let me find one of the notes here. Okay, so this section is all my biographies. And if I look at the categories, I've got handles, FBC, handle story as text, and FBC handle stories as text after family chart. So that tells family book creator, I want you to take this whole Word document and just slurp it into the final book and make everything work together. And I want you to do it right after the family chart for each person. A lot of other choices here. All right, so jumping to, is that the last thing I wanted to there? Yeah, just testing a lot. Okay, so once Family Book Creator ran, it created this very long document here. This is my final document. Yes, there are things I did to play around with this. So the background that you see on each page, that parchment is a digital background that I purchased on Etsy. There's a lot of creators out there. The way to do this, it took me hours. I'm not lying. There's a bug in Word. If you try to do this, so you're going to want to go to design and then page color over here and fill effects. Oh, by the way, all of this is in a blog post that I wrote, and I linked to it in the main group. So if you're trying to frantically scribble notes, please know that it's there, and I tried to put screenshots there too. Once you have fill effects, do not do picture because it will look fine briefly, but then when you actually try to export your document for printing, Word will mess it up. It'll make it all tiled instead of stretched, and it's just a bug they know about and don't really care about. So the secret is to do it via texture. So I click on the texture tab and I go other texture and I browse to the file wherever you save yours. I played around a lot with opacity. So you'll see these are all my experiments with 20% opacity, 35, 40. I landed on 20 for this particular image, but again, it's just a lot of testing, including getting a full proof printed by your company and getting it back and looking to see what you think about it, because you don't really know until it's in your hands. Then you pick your file and it'll show up right here, and that will put it behind everything else in the document. So if I picked this one, every page now has switched away from that parchment. So I'm going to undo that because I like parchment. Doing this will make if you choose a color background, that means you have to pay for color printing on every page of your book. So keep that in mind when you're trying to price things out. A lot of people do not do this for that very reason. What else did I do? Once it moved, after FBC ran, I took a look at each of my charts. So most of the time, like a regular family tree chart will show up like this. It's got a little heading up here, family of, and then it has the tree. I have a very Catholic family and they like to have a lot of children. So I had several families that had a dozen or 14 kids, and the tree was spilling over onto the next page. I really did not like that look at all. I ended up deleting that header up in the corner and just making a new text box with the name of the couple right there and putting it in the middle. So that's how I got around that. You might notice that there are no boxes around the people in my family tree. Unfortunately, the way I found to do that was by macro as well. So I wrote some code that will automatically go through my whole document and take out the lines in those boxes. Again, I am happy to share if you want to reach out. It's kind of a technical thing, but once you've got it set up, it's not too bad. I hear that Stefan said he's working on it for a future release, but we got to get the Mac version of things settled first. Even and odd layouts. So Word is kind of strange. So for me, it was important that I knew exactly how the even and odd pages would work in my book, because I wanted to make sure that every time I had a family tree starting a new section, that the biography started on the very next page. And that meant I had to be in control of even and odd pages. When you're in Word and you are looking at it, so here I've zoomed out to see multiple pages at once. This is the opposite of actually how your book will actually run. So Word shows you the first page on the left, but when you print a book, books start on the right. So the first page of my book is not on the left, it's on the right. It's just Word isn't really meant for this purpose. So to get around that while I'm editing my book, I add a blank page at the beginning. And that moves everything over, and then I can see the true left-right layout, and I can make sure that that I've got all of my family trees on the left and my biographies starting on the right. Make sure to go back and delete that page at the very end, or you will be sad. This is a good time to talk about indexes or indices, I guess. When you run FBC, it makes these really cool indexes at the end. So this one is an index of places. This one is an index of individuals. It's awesome, and it includes the color coding, which I really like. But you need to, if you make any changes to your book, then you should rerun this at the end, because like after I add that blank page, for example, everything's on a different page. So just basically always, no matter what, rerun this right before you print. I made that exact mistake in one of my proofs, so all the page numbers are wrong because I forgot to do this step at the end. So you want to right click and you want to say update field, and all the page numbers will automatically update. You do lose formatting when you do this, and as you can see, I had changed mine into columns. So then I just change it back. I select all of that data and go to layout, and there's a little columns choice up here, and I say 3. This, I had all the same data, but it was all on one page, and just made the book that much shorter. So I do the same thing for my index of individuals. One thing that you should definitely make a note of if you're writing biographies like I did is that they are not indexed unless you are manually going to that trouble. Which you can do, and someone has written me that they are doing. I'm not that industrious, so I just make sure people understand these are just for the summaries and the family charts. Your biographies are not going to be included. You should also update your table of contents at the very end for the same reasons. It's got page numbers that are getting adjusted when you're playing around and adding things in here, so you want to make sure those are updated at the end. So do that after you delete that blank page you stuck in the beginning. I added a lot of extras to my book that people have been asking about, so let's jump to that. This unfortunately was a very manual process. I was hoping I could get something out of Family Tree Maker, but I just didn't like what I was getting. So this, I went on Google Maps and I just dropped pins in all the cities where my ancestors were from and manually color coded it to match the rest of the book. I don't know if I'm going to do that again next time. This book is theoretically, in a perfect world, one of 8. I want to do one for each great grandparent, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'll do this step again. It was a huge pain in the butt. So that I did that for Luxembourg just to show all the parts of the country that we're from. This page is from a plat of the county where all my family lived in Wisconsin. It's from 1873. And it's got a lot of property owner names on it. I pulled it into Photoshop. I added colored rectangles, color coding them, and just changed the opacity to make them a little bit lighter so you could see through them. This worked out nicely because they were all in the same county. I don't know with future books if I'll be able to keep doing this, but it's kind of nice. And then I added a couple of road names so that my grandmother, when she's looking at it, could sort of center her mind and know exactly what she was looking at. This fan chart, also color-coded, is made with the Charting Companion, which is a different plugin for Family Tree Maker. We've got FBC and Charting Companion. I only used it for this purpose. I don't have a lot of knowledge on that plugin, honestly. I just played around with it until I could make it do this exact thing. And then you'll see later, I also use this on the cover, the back cover of my book. This was just for fun. I was playing around with putting these on my cover of my book, and I didn't, but I liked it so much I couldn't let it go. So I just gave it its own page inside the book. This is from the website wordart.com. It's really neat. You can choose a lot of different shapes. The way I went about it was by going to Family Tree Maker and running an index report, index of individuals. I can't remember, it's in the blog post. And I just got a list of all the last names and then used that to make the word cloud on WordArt. The last thing to know about Word is that when you are ready to export for printing, all of the services I know of need a PDF file. I guess it's possible some don't, but when you do your save as and you pick where it's going to be, you want to pick PDF but you're not done there. Don't just click save. There's a new options. This appears when you click PDF. So when you don't, it's not there. Once you pick PDF, there's an options box. Open that up and make sure you have checked PDFA compliant. They need that to do their magic on the printing end. So make sure you've got that checked. It's sticky. It'll remember now that it's checked. I don't have to do it every time, but make sure you do it that first time. All right, so then after I had my final document, I took it over to get it printed. So I researched print-on-demand companies. The first one I tried was Lulu Express. I didn't really like the quality, but it might have been a fluke. I switched over to Barnes & Noble, and I really liked their quality, but the customer service was extremely slow. They still had some problems with quality, and they wanted a very big cut. So I don't anticipate selling a lot of these, but they wanted 40% of gross. At which point I switched back to Lulu, not the Express version, and they wanted 20% of net, which seemed a lot more fair to me. I ran another proof and I was happy enough, so I have stuck with them. Pretty straightforward website, pretty easy to use, and I can then share that link with my family members, and I don't have to be involved after that. You know, I didn't want to order 10 copies myself and like ship them out to people and collect cash and all that. I just wanted people to take care of it themselves, and that's what Lulu allows me to do. Oh, covers. I should talk about covers. Because I'm a photographer, I already know Photoshop, so it was a pretty easy call for me to make my cover in that. I know there's other services. Canva is one that a lot of people have used. That's kind of nice. But if you are in Photoshop, wherever printer you decide to use, make sure you get their template. So this is the official Lulu template for a book of this size with this many pages. And I can turn that layer on and off to make sure I don't have anything important on the edges. You never want to have text or important pictures along the edge. The way printing works is things get trimmed in a lot of weird ways, and you don't want to lose anything important. I also left space for a barcode in case I do want to sell it on a bookshelf someday. For my cover, I specifically wanted this fan chart on there. There's a research center in the town of Wisconsin where I'm from. That's a Luxembourg American Cultural Research Center. And I'd always envisioned like donating my book to be on the shelves along with the other family books. And I know when I'm on those shelves flipping through and I see a last name that matches one on my tree, and I'm never quite sure if it's my particular Watttree family. So I wanted someone to be able to quickly see which specific people were in this book. The last thing I would say is to leave time for revisions. It's tempting to feel like once you get to this point, you're done, but leave some time to get a proof back from the printer, make some changes, set it aside for several days and come back and read it again, ask someone else to read it. When we get sort of into the weeds and we've looked at these pages a million times, you start seeing what you expect to see, like you know what it's supposed to say instead of what it really says, and it's easy to miss small things. So if you're trying to make your book for a family reunion or an event or something like that, leave time for this part of the process so that you can get the final book as perfect as you can anyways. And that's my main presentation there.
Okay, there's a couple questions. One's for Stefan. I'll get back to that one.
All right.
Yeah, just make sure I didn't skip one. Did you start with Ancestry and sync with Family Tree Maker as the beginning of your preparation?
No. So I had been working in Family Search, the One World, One Giant Family Tree. I left because I was having conflict with somebody who kept changing the data on my person. So I was wanting to start over somewhere, and I wanted somewhere that was under my control, that was mine. I always kind of had that worry in the back of my head that Ancestry.com could disappear, the company could go bankrupt. I don't know. I wanted the data to be in my control. So that's why Family Tree Maker is my base family tree. I only use Ancestry to get hints and look for records, and then now to make DNA matches. Hopefully that answers that.
And this one, does Word/Family Book Creator handle the headers, footers, or did you manipulate?
So the way Word works with the table of contents is you do have to tell it what everything is. So like when I added these extras at the bottom here, when I made the headers, it's a text box, but then what was I I had to mark it up and say this is a particular header. Maybe I didn't do it in that case. Sorry, it's literally been like a year since I did some of the stuff in this book. So I apologize on that. I set them as headers, I think.
Well, the headers, the ancestors of, then your ancestor name, that's done by Family Book Creator.
Yes,
I mean,
that's
that's just your tree name, so.
Yeah, so I was the only things I changed were adding these headers for my extras at the end. And then I had to tweak it a little bit on those charts where I moved the header and to be the middle. I had to make sure Word knew that that text box was still something that should be part of table of contents. Sorry, I can't answer that better. I'll try to find a screenshot for you and post it to the group.
Again, this is Levi, and I believe he's right. Doesn't FBC have a column option for indexes? And yeah, you can tell it Family Book Creator if you want to use 2 columns or 3 columns.
Great, do that. That would be better.
Can you share the specifics of how you did the fan chart and charting companion? Not here, but in our Facebook group when you have a second.
I will give it a shot. I did that part a really long time ago too, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise I can cover it. A fan chart and charting companion is pretty easy. I don't understand how you got one endnote. I thought each Word doc would need its own endnotes.
In the document itself, so this is, now I'm opening up one of my individual Word docs here. This is a biography. Right now, it has its own, but when FBC runs, it automatically moves all of this to the very end of my long document. So this particular citation here is Kevin Wester. I grew up in Belgium, Wisconsin Facebook group. Right now it's number 2, but in my final document, it will be somewhere else. It's just one of the really cool features in my opinion. All right,
Yeah,
okay, there it is. So now it's like number 45. So FBC has taken all of the endnotes from my individual documents and combined them into one at the end for me. Because I said I wanted endnotes. I don't know what it would do if I was doing footnotes. Probably leave them there.
Footnotes, it put them on the page that you did have.
Yeah.
So. Well, that's all the questions I see. I don't think only Stefan could answer this. And said, is it on the horizon to be able to create a hybrid book? I'm assuming automatically. So Stefan, if you're still around.
Yeah, I'm still awake. Yeah, first the Mac edition needs to be finished. So
yeah,
new features in the current edition until the Mac edition is ready. So I have this request on my list, and yes, right now you can do it manually, but to do it automatically is something I would prefer. But yeah, I can't do everything at once.
yeah, and it really isn't that hard to do once you've done it a couple times. It's really pretty straightforward. So but anyway.
I wanted to comment, somebody in the beginning, might have been Susan, was talking about exporting a GEDCOM from FTM to create your book. I don't think you should have to do that, depending if you wanted like a really specific filter of people, but I can't imagine. You should be able to work directly from Family Tree Maker.
Well, I was just trying to clean out all the images that I'd attached and kind of take a shortcut to cleaning up the data, because I've got like 12,000 names in there, and I mean, I'm only going to use up to the maybe 3rd or 4th, because there's really no pictures or anything that you have to include and make it interesting. Sometimes you get some newspaper accounts or something interesting, like they've been taken to court or that sort of thing, but it's kind of scarce the documentation at that level.
Yeah,
Whereas at the lower level, there's just so much you can write about a person.
I
So-
definitely agree. I did the same in my book. I did the first 3 generations got biographies, but the 4th generation is just the automatically generated FBC stuff, because you're right, there was nothing to make it interesting.
So that's what I was trying to do, is convert it to a JEDCOM to
Okay.
strip out all that stuff.
But now you can do it with an excluding the media category.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as like all those like name facts, you can just select which fact you want preferred and then just tell Family Book Creator only use the preferred fact for that
Mhm.
type.
Mhm.
Or in Family Tree Maker, you could also merge fact type to the same type
Right.
and then pick. So I mean, that's all part of cleanup work on your tree. So
I got way too many because I started saving articles from the newspaper, and
Oh.
that would, depending on how I saved it, it would put a box in, but I think unless you text or tick the box, it's not going to really matter.
yeah, you don't want to use the save to ancestry feature because it will always create a custom fact, and it only saves like a low resolution image.
I know.
Um,
I
so
didn't
you,
know that before.
yeah. So you'd want to download it and then attach it, and then when you print it, it would look better. So,
Yeah.
so. Oh, looks like we got a new message. Oh, you've mentioned the resolution before.
Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention, sorry, when you're deciding the settings in your Word document, think about your intended audience. So I originally wanted to do a size 12 font so I could fit more in. And then I remembered this is for my grandmother and she can read a size 14 font much more easily. So keep that in mind. I'm talking about resolution. It has a lot of different.
So you mentioned that you mentioned that the stuff doesn't, within each paragraph, won't self-index at the end.
Mhm.
Is there any process in which that could take place? Because that's an awesome feature, or do you just kind of use it for each summary section where it index the individuals?
I don't know. I haven't really researched it. It's a good point. Maybe somebody solved this with a macro.
You can select the names. I'm not sure of the exact, I'm far from a word expert. I mean, if you generate like just a word, the Family Book Creator book, save it as a Word, and then turn on the hidden fields, you can see how they, where they mention a name, it will show the code for how it places that name in the name index, and same thing for the place name.
So it's probably very labor intensive to do something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
just
if you do something from Word, yeah, it's like you're gonna have to highlight the name and then somehow say, okay, add to name index. Do the same thing for the place name, and yeah, you would have to do that. So if you want it.
I think Carol was, oh, sorry.
Someone mentioned about the saving to computer from Ancestry, is it higher? If you're on Ancestry, do an Ancestry citation media. That I mean, you can attach directly from that. That will get you as good as resolution as downloading it direct. It's where you do from newspapers.com, you use the save to ancestry feature. That will only save a low resolution image. And possibly the same thing. Well, Find a Grave's got a save to ancestry, and that one might possibly. I mean, I just personally hate that feature because it makes a royal mess of your tree with custom facts. Because it always asks for a description. So you could say, okay, this is my Aunt Edna's wedding. Well, it creates a custom fact, Aunt Edna's wedding, and that's where it saves it. So it's,
Yeah, especially if you have a particularly long one, because it squishes it down until it can fit that entire column on one PDF.
Yeah.
Basically unreadable.
Yeah.
It should be almost done. She started at 9.
No. Does anyone have any other questions? Because on the oh, let me just share my screen real quick. For those custom back names, they are here in the group. If you go onto files, there's two ways. I created a, well, here's Rebecca's settings up here. Here's that template she talked about. Let's see here. And this might be, well, here's an easy way. I created this Fbc Categories 2017 FPMB. This is a backup file for Family Tree Maker. So you'd restore it and then you can merge it into your tree. It's got one person and one media file. The person's name is to be deleted, and then it's just a generic picture file. But to that picture file, I attached all the Family Book Creator media file or media categories, or all bulk of them. I mean, you literally have like 90 or 91 media categories on sizes, anything from 10%, 11%, 12, all the way up to 100%. And I only covered like the basic, like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. But it will add all those media categories and the 3 custom facts, the FBC privacy protection, and FBC has family section, and then the married names. You can delete that person, delete the media file, those categories will remain. I've also got like just a text file. Oh yeah, FBC media categories text. And that's just a text file with all that information. So if you just want to copy and paste them in, you can do that. So, but that's just in the file section of the file Family Book Creator users group.
Mhm.
So
I used that. It worked out fine.
yeah. That's for Rebecca or Levi. Did you run into any copyright issues? How did you handle them?
To be honest, I have not really put effort into that. I'm only selling this book to other watcheries, and I probably should be more worried about it than I am, but there you go.
Yeah.
I would say something along the same lines. I did a lot of research when I first got started in this project, and it gets very complex. The kind of rule of thumb that I gleaned from different legal articles and stuff I was reading was, things that you cite are obviously not stealing intellectual property with proper citations given to that. As far as things that people provide to you, by them giving you that image or something to include, if you're doing like a descendant book, that's them kind of giving you that permission explicitly for that. So generally speaking, I did a little bit of surface level research, but didn't see any real issues arising with that.
I mean, to be clear, we are violating copyright when we print these portraits that we don't have rights to, or a lot of these documents, but it's more of a situation of it's unlikely anyone's going to pursue that.
Yeah, and with proper citation and stuff, you're giving credit where credit's due. So in that way, it's not academic articles and things like that use different intellectual property that is properly cited. So I think that's the key to it.
And to pay attention to your sources. So, you know, I use luxroots.com, and you are not to screenshot or to share things off of that site. So I take the information and I cite them properly, but no images.
Yeah, it depends, I guess is the best answer.
Yeah, I posted this infographic I found on Can I Use That Picture? So that's in the photo set file, or the picture section of the group. And I can maybe put this up into like one of the featured posts so it's easier to find, but that kind of gives you a thing as to, you know, can you, can't you. There is like fair use and stuff, and sometimes, like I said, if you're just, it's a big thing, especially if you're selling it, especially for a profit. If you're just doing it for family members, that's maybe a little more gray area, but
and that's exactly, I think that was the bottom line that I came to as well.
yeah.
Unless, good luck proving that you're turning a profit on any of these projects. Let's be honest.
Right.
You know, the labor that you put into this, your pennies on the dollar. I barely charged enough to not go in the hole on my project. So if there ever were a dispute, it would fall into the nonprofit category.
Yeah.
Would that be the same for Canada? Are the laws on copyright the same?
I'm sorry, I have no idea.
Yeah, because this infographic was based on US copyright. So yeah, I'm not sure. I would just maybe just Google like Canadian photo copyright. So just if you want to be absolutely certain. So
I think it varies, but for most of us, the photos are photos that someone in the family took of someone in the family.
Mhm.
And if you're distributing with your family, I can't imagine there being any legal issues.
Mhm.
yeah. So any other questions or comments?
It was great tonight. The line was really good.
Good.
It was easy to hear Rebecca with no breakups, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Lori, you got your hand up. Do you
Yeah,
have a question?
I do. I've created a book from another family, and the only thing that I wasn't happy with was I had this more facts and events for every person, and I didn't know how to get rid of that. So if you could just give me that one little hint. It just appeared. Where did it appear? Basically at the end of my information about every individual, yeah. So it has mostly residence facts. So I guess it's giving me census data. I don't know.
I think that is for data that you told it not to print in the narrative, but in a table format.
Oh, okay. So that's what it's done.
So that's what it is. Yeah, because yeah,
it's quite competitive. It's quite competitive.
Yeah, I can share this from one of my books. You know, it's like here you've got some of the detail and then more facts and events.
Yeah, I want to eliminate that.
Well, either don't print like those fact types.
Yeah.
Or don't have them print in a table format.
Right. Okay.
May I ask you a question, Lori? So do you not want to see the residence facts at all, or do you just not want the sentence above?
I don't want the resident facts themselves.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then you may just unselect them. Maybe John may show you on the user interface how to unselect the residence fact.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what kind of fact type it is. That's my problem. Is there a particular one that I just
Residence. That's why.
Resident.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's
So that's,
simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, Mike said, yeah, still a little confused on organization. Yesterday, I put a Word document in my person media and it was the last after my pictures that were listed first. After FBC exported it, so I'm thinking no loose pictures in the person media. So FBC doesn't include them. Well, I think, yeah, if you don't want that loose media to print, you like put them in a category and then just tell that category don't print them.
Is it a matter of where it's printing them, Mike? Because like I use this category to tell FBC I want it to be between the chart and the person's data. So that's where you can tell them where to put your Word doc.
Yeah. Yeah, because along with that FBC handle story as text, there is that thing, if you do the before family chart or after family chart, then that way it'll force it to one of those two positions.
And you can have loose pictures in your media in Family Tree Maker. Just make sure you're not including them when you run FBC. Just tell FBC not to put those in.
No.
Rebecca, did you actually attach those files to both individuals in the couple or just the primary individual?
I did, just for repeatability in the future, or if somebody was interested in only one of those people. So.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, you uploaded it once and then just linked it to both individuals. Okay.
Exactly. And then I told FBC no duplicates. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then I would also only have to edit one when I was updating it, which I was doing a lot. That I should have given the last tip too. Give yourself a deadline. You are never going to be done researching. You are never going to have all of the information. You're never going to feel ready enough to just like call it, but you need to, or your book's never going to get created.
Yeah.
Be strict.
Yep.
Yeah. I always kind of chuckle when someone says, yeah, I'm not going to write my book until I'm done researching. It's like, that just means it'll never get written, but.
If you want, tell yourself you can have a second edition someday. This is just the first edition.
That's the advice I took. I don't think I would have. I forced myself to have it done by Christmas and they're in the mail right now. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm making it for my grandmother, and there's a natural sort of ticking clock when anybody's elderly. So think about that too. Think of all the people who would love to read your book. Make sure they get a chance to.
If you like,
And us to do it while we still can.
Exactly right. Yeah.
if you like, I could add some additional information about formatting pictures inside the Word documents, which makes sense. So if you would like to keep them left or right aligned to the borders, you can tell Word to do so, and then you are not going to have trouble if you change the layout from portrait to landscape. So then still Word has some control over it. Are you interested?
Anything that makes it easier.
Okay, I will share my screen. Just wait a second if I'm allowed to. Yeah, looks like. Okay. This is Family Tree Maker running on a Mac. I think I have this document here. It's just a sample. And usually if you just enter an image, it's going to flow somewhere in the text, right? If you set it to that the text is going to flow around, you need to specify where this image should go, right? And if I specify in Word how the text wrapping is done, I could tell Word to, okay, the text should only be on the left side. And if I do this, yes, then the text is only on the left side. But now is the text on the left side and have empty space on the right side. So if I would like to keep the photo on the right border, I need to tell Word to do so, position, And I can tell it, okay, the vertical horizontal alignment is right. Okay. And now it's on the right side. The text is always left. And this is not going to change, even if I change to landscape mode, right? Right now, this text is in portrait mode, but if I would change to landscape, it's not going to change. So I did this with this picture. And also there was before a question about having a kind of a border or empty space around this. So I selected here, was it in text wrapping? Yes, a distance from text. You can specify the distance of the text to the image. So usually this is just 0, 0, 0, right, for everything. But then the text goes tight to the image.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and if you change this setting, so maybe I will use just 0.1 inch. Then there's already some space. Oops, that's what's wrong. Some space between the text and the image. So this is how you may control this. Okay, Rebecca did some more advanced stuff with laying or overlay pictures and text, but it depends on what you try to achieve, right? So this is one step to get the image stay on the right and have the proper position. So just remember alignment right and text wrapping just left only for this example. Of course, it's the other way around if you have an image on the left side, right? Then it should be, hopefully I did it properly. Text wrapping, both sides is already wrong. So text wrapping right only, position left, oh, that's fine. Okay, so and we can now use this example document. I will just save it, close this one. And if I'm in Family Tree Maker, we're going to see the result. I think I only selected to just include this by converting the document to text. Just one generation, 0 to 0, that's fine. And I do not want to update any index information, it's a Word document. So just that we are going to see the result in Word. Save, replace. And I'm going to do this document twice. So once in landscape mode and once in portrait mode. So we are going to get this in portrait mode right now. And you did discuss at the start about keeping the Word document already in a proper layout and format. I would recommend that you keep the page width similar to your end result. Right. So the margins is not that interesting, but the area used for the text and images, that's the interesting part. So the text area needs to be similar if you would like to get similar results. So, but as this has been combined now, the text is on the right as intended. And here's the image is on the right and this image is on the left. And we still have the same settings we used before. So if I go here, size and position, so it should be similar, right? Okay, this is not maintained, but this alignment is maintained. And of course, border size is maintained as well. Don't save. Recreate the document now in portrait mode, so maybe 11 by 8.5. And you are not going to get proper results if you used fixed positions for those images, right? If you have them just 2 inches from the right border or something, then it will always stay 2 inches from the right border. So you should be aware of how you kept these positions. So now we have landscape mode. And yes, this image is still tied to the right border. and this image is tied to the left border, right? And the text flows automatically. So it depends on what kind of information you would like to integrate. And this allows you to even decide later if you would like to use portrait or landscape mode, right? It's just some additional work to your images. Hopefully this is helpful. Okay. Any questions about that, or was it just too advanced word usage?
I think that's a handy tip, you know, just you can tell it to put the photo on the right margin or left, and then doesn't really matter what your margins are. So
yeah, there's also I forgot to show some additional thing. Maybe I'm going back. You have the document open now. Just a second. Going to share the screen again. Sometimes you would like to keep certain paragraphs together. So back to this example. So this is not really a heading in the document, but it should be on the same page where the text is, right? And if you would always try to keep it together, you may just mark it in the paragraph style. So I'm selecting these lines, go to the paragraph style, and there I can select line and page breaks and tell it to keep this next, so which will keeps those lines together with the next, and keep all lines together on one page. This is also some interesting stuff. But yes, this is all word usage. So in general, this feature to incorporate contents from Word documents to using Family Book Creator is somehow similar like using copy and paste, right? You copy the contents of this document and it gets automatically pasted into your end result. So that's the idea about this feature. Stopping sharing again.
yeah, I know after the first group, I think was it you, Christine, that mentioned it's like we should offer an advanced Excel group and or not Excel, but Word. So, but I'd have to work. Well, if someone wants to start up one, go for it. I mean, I'd probably join just so I could learn stuff. It's like, I generally know just enough to do what I need to do. So.
Yeah, it's how do you say? 95% of all Word users use 5% of its features.
Yeah.
Do we still have a minute?
Yeah, during ask a question, the top line for the AIDA has extra spaces, which is a problem in my book. So I can't delete those spaces. Is there a trick?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Where do we have extra spaces?
Are they line spaces or character spaces?
The top line for Ada has extra space.
That the Ada document he was using with the picture.
Yeah.
When he was moving the pictures, the top line has some big extra spaces there, which is the same thing I'm getting in my book. The the document when you were moving the pictures from left to right. AIDA.
So I'm still, I will share my screen again. Maybe we are
Yes,
going to
if you
understand
look
the
on that
question.
screen that you were sharing before, right after it says Ada, there's some extra, like in space, 2008 space, opera space,
Okay.
No, this is just how the text is aligned.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
whoops, just write this together with a hyperlink. So you may just switch to left alignment if you do not want this.
Yeah,
So right now it's justified, and if it's justified, then Word does automatically
You
apply.
can also put
It-
optional hyphens.
Yeah, I didn't use any hyphens here, right? It's
I
just,
think it looks
Supernumerary.
neater like this.
However you say that.
Yeah.
I have the same thing in my FBC book. It's not on Word though. It's in the actual book.
Well, it's just an option of the text formatting.
That's
yeah,
not
so
using Word. I'm using FBC.
yes, but in FBC you have the same alignment options. I'm launching FBC here. Just wait a second. So under preferences,
And it's just that one, it's like one sentence here or there.
yeah, but at the end I need to see exactly your example, right? But here you can specify how text is aligned. Usually it's left aligned, and maybe you selected justify.
Mhm.
So it depends which settings you are using.
Yeah,
So it's not the settings because it's not throughout the whole book. It's only every once in a while. And then I tried to delete it and something popped up that I'd have to have like Adobe Acrobat or something else. But it was just like maybe 4 or 5 spaces within 3, 4 pages.
Yeah, we need to see exact your example. So it's hard to guess what you are looking at and what you may see, right? You may just send your example to support@familybookcreator.com. Maybe I can have a look at it. But please send your example together with the settings you are using. So please use preferences, save settings, and send me the settings file as well. So this may help.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a picture because it's not the whole page. It's just a sentence here or there.
Yeah, but it does
it
not
could be
help.
that paragraph or something that happened
That
in.
does not help if you just send me a copy of this single sentence, right? So I need
Okay.
the whole page, right?
Mm.
And maybe even better, you send it as a document, not just a screenshot.
Okay.
But I have something additionally. So I think Levi asked about this indexing stuff. So if we create a document, maybe I'm going to create a document. Family Book Creator does automatically create the index entries for us, right? Which allows Word to create the index of individuals and index of places and things like that. And we may use this information to add it to our own documents. So I will just create the document again. I could also just have opened it anyhow. So let's see. Here we go. And if we look at the document, there are funny hidden fields inside. So this is how the name is mentioned inside the name index, because there's this hidden XE field with Kennedy, Colin, John Fitzgerald, stuff like that, right? And if you would like to mention the same name in the document we are including, we can of course add such information to our document. So I will close this. So my friend John Doe, if we would like, no, it's a bad idea because I use a hyperlink document here. I will just add it here as an example on the top. John. Space should not be bolded. And if I paste the hidden fields, first I need to make them visible. So I could just copy and paste the field information from one document to another document. Of course, I do not want to use this funny formatting. So something like this. And the information is still just a complete field with this information. I can even modify the names here, right? So it's not John Fitzgerald in our example, it's John Doe. So this is just an example how to customize those fields, right? For the name index, it's going to be bold. This is what the B means. I'm going to save the document. If we now recreate the example here, which does automatically embed our document, right? It should embed this hidden field as well. So it's just hidden by default. But this would be one way to get additional entries in the table of contents or additional information. The text, yeah. Oh, didn't I not save it? It's not my text, right? Maybe I modified the wrong text. I'm sorry. Why? Save. Maybe I'm somewhere else. Yeah, I'm somewhere else. Okay, that's the fun with those examples. But no, it sounds good. Save, replace. Did I lose the document? Just create it again. Maybe I didn't save it before. I can't remember. So I have done it before, it should work. Maybe I have not tested it in the Mac edition, but yeah, there we go. So now we have this additional information here, and yes, it's still hidden, right? And if I would like this one to appear in the index of individuals, by default, the index of individuals is empty because I selected not to create this, right? So in the settings here, I selected without updating all fields, and these fields are responsible for the index of individuals as well. But if I mark everything and then press F9 to update all fields, Word does update those fields, and we now have the Doe John automatically mentioned in the index of individuals as well, right? So because it's part of our document, which we embedded, and that's why it's automatically here included. But you may also notice that it's being bold because it has been bolded in the source document, right, that I included. So if you would like to do something like this, you need to be sure to use exactly the correct font settings for everything. So this is, yeah, major advanced usage. So. Okay. Hopefully I did not confuse everybody, but I think Levi asked a question in this direction.
So much learning.
That's live.
I like that index sorted by last name. For big families, that's very helpful.
So do we have any more questions or comments?
It was excellent.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Stefan. I think we can sign off. If anyone does have any other questions, feel free to post them in the Facebook group. And this should be up, well, later. This recording should be up later today or tomorrow morning at the latest. So,
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
I'll see you later, everyone.